Okay, I honestly was not gonna make a video right now, but I'm just branching off of the last video I posted and it's starting to become interesting. So I thought I'm just gonna turn this into a quick little video. So as you recall in the last video, I was diagnosing the squeaking in my front suspension and a rattling in my exhaust. And while investigating the rattling in my exhaust, I noticed that there was an exhaust leak coming out from the bottom. I could feel the air puttering out and there's soot all on the bottom side. So I decided to try to tighten the screws and the springs and kind of tightened up. And even after that, it was still leaking. So I thought to myself, did they ever end up putting this piece back in, which sits between the exhaust piping and the cap piping to kind of seal it up? And I found it under my back seat and I was like, oh no, they never put one in. Maybe they put their own version of one in, or there's nothing in there at all. So at the end of that video, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in, off camera, just a little side project, which is what I was doing today. And as I unbolted it and took it off, I saw this piece as I was trying to separate the two pipes. It is a completely rusted, flimsy, broken, like, I think their own version of this, because it's obviously not this one, or it might be, and it just might be that corroded, but it definitely doesn't look like it. This is like their own version. And this might be what the rattling was, but either way, we're gonna throw this in and check it out, because this is just disgusting. The way I described the rattle was that it sounded like there were shards of metal in the exhaust just bouncing around, and that honestly could be the case. So before we throw this one on, I was gonna take this off of the hangers, the whole exhaust piping off the hangers, and stand it up and see if I could shake any metal pieces out. But before we even get into that, I wanna backtrack a little and talk about something I was explaining in the previous video about how the leak might have become. So I was saying that I used to unbolt and rebolt my exhaust a lot when I first got the truck, and that it stripped out some stuff and messed up the threading on the receiving end and everything. And this is my first time under the truck since I've had the exhaust put on and seeing the work they did. So normally there are these two receiving ends that you thread the bolt into. They come this way, thread into this, and this is what was stripped on this side. Now I noticed that they completely sawed off this one, but for some reason didn't saw off this one. And inside this one, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there's like no threading in there. It's completely smoothed out on the inside, so I don't know why they didn't cut this one off. And right now, as I'm recording this, I just noticed that the heat shield over here is bent all the way down and possibly hitting the pipe right here, which is what could also be making rattling. I don't know how I didn't notice this in the last video, unless it somehow just happened or happened within the last day or two. I gotta go back and watch that last video and see if this was bent down or if I'm just going crazy. So anyways, they sawed this one off. This one's completely smoothed out on the inside, and they're just using their own nuts on the backside, and it looks like maybe possibly Loctite, but I'm just gonna move on with emptying this out, see if there's any metal in it, and then putting it back on, putting the ring on and sealing it all back up. But before we do that, I need to get a sound clip of this completely unbolted and show you guys why I kept unbolting it so much when I first got this truck, because it sounds amazing. I wouldn't say it's so much louder, it's a little bit louder, but the thing that I like most about it is that it has a lot of tone. It's super like throaty, it doesn't sound restricted at all, it can actually breathe, but you get no back pressure, which means you lose some power, which I absolutely could not deal with, especially where I lived at the time. So, Black Widow muffler. metal shavings coming out. I hear nothing clinging around in there when I shake it, so I think we're good there. So I'm gonna throw this back on with that new sealing ring, and hopefully the rattling stops and the exhaust leak stops. So cross your fingers. Okay, so this is the piece that was missing, or not missing, they kind of put their own version of it on, but this is a really nice tight snug fit. I had to push it and it kind of like not snapped because it's not clipping in anything, but just kind of had to be forced on. It's gonna fit, it tapers off so it goes perfectly into here, which should eliminate the exhaust leak coming out, because now it's just transferring smoothly from the cat piping into the exhaust piping without nothing there, kind of just dumping the air out the bottom. So now we're just going to feed this in, and it should hopefully eliminate the exhaust leak. Okay, I think I'm understanding why they did some of the things they did, such as kind of like sawing this piece off on the other side and using a different ring piece. Because with this in, now it's sort of acting as a spacer in the sense that this isn't as close as it was without it. So now when I put the bolt through, it's supposed to be threading into this, which is smooth on the inside now with no threading. So now that we're needing to go past this and thread into a different nut, it doesn't have enough threading on this end to make that work, especially now that this is pushing it back even more. Maybe I could take the grinder that we use for Bryson's 3rd gen fender wells and just saw this down a little bit so it's not protruding as far, and then I can kind of thread a little. Okay, I can't hear anything now. Ear protection recommended. So it's not completely flush, but we're still going to test it out and see if that's enough shaving before I get any further. Okay, it's still not enough. I think I'm going to have to like saw this even beyond flush for it to start threading, and at least have enough thread to hold and not back itself off. So I'll catch up with you guys once I'm done grinding this down. Okay, so everything's buttoned up again on both sides. The spacer's in the middle. I wiped off all the soot on the bottom, so I can check again in a few days. Let's go turn it on and see if we can hear any exhaust leak coming out. Okay, well, I am hearing no exhaust leak. I don't feel any of the air hitting me in the face with the arm like I did the other day when I first noticed it, so it definitely sealed it up good. I guess I'll have to drive it around for a little bit, get it warmed up, and see if I can hear any of the rattling after it's warm, to see if it was either that heat shield that was bent down or just that metal piece in there that was all loose and rusted and cracked. Maybe when that heated up, it had a little more play and it would bounce around, but I'm gonna go drive around and we'll figure this out. All right, I just got back from the drive, drove for a while, got it all hot and everything, went to a lot of stoplights and did a lot of starts, which is where I usually hear the rattling. I pulled it up in the driveway where I was last video and did the same thing to recreate the sound. Still didn't hear anything, so as of right now, I think it totally fixed the problem. And also, I don't know if it's me just wishful thinking, but I feel like now that the leak is gone and it's feeding the exhaust all the way to the tailpipe and dumping it out the back like it should be, the power delivery is a little more smooth and a little more better, which I'm pretty excited about. So all in all, I think this was a great fix. That metal ring, a lot better than this thing that I found that's literally just like crumbling inside of the exhaust. Luckily, none of it got into the exhaust that I know of, but I don't think there's anything in there because we shook it all out. And that should be it for the exhaust fix. As far as the squeaking from the previous video, that returned like a day or two later as expected. So I'm gonna need to go oiling things one by one and seeing what the culprit is, and maybe I need to replace some parts or some joints or something, but I'll figure that out later. But I'm so glad I got the exhaust fixed today and found all of this. It really really unfolded right in front of my eyes and developed into this whole video. So thanks for joining me for this video, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget that we have the giveaway going on. I'll throw it up right here real quick. Go to the Instagram, check it out, get entered, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.